early Shabbat Shalom to each and all on this beautiful Friday morning here in Scottsdale, Arizona. Friends, they tell the story of this rabbi who would deliver a sermon each and every Shabbat, and just after he began, a congregant right in the front row would fall asleep. One Shabbat, the rabbi walks onto the bima, delivers his sermon, and he realizes that this congregant fell asleep even before he began to speak. He's now very upset. He wakes his congregant up and he says to him, "Hey, I didn't even begin my speech and you already fell asleep this week? What happened to you?" And the congregant responds, "Rabbi, don't worry. I trust you. I trust you, and therefore I fell asleep way before you began." But friends, I'm reminded of the story today because there is one man in this week's portion that seems to have fallen asleep. Who? Aaron, the brother of Moses. Aaron was charged with the mission to inaugurate the tabernacle in the desert with sacrifices, as we read about again in this week's portion. Yet before he begins this inauguration, the ceremony, he awaits, he stops, to the point that Moses had to go to Aaron and say to him, "Come on, Aaron, go ahead already, approach the altar and start doing these sacrifices." The big question, of course, was, why did Aaron wait a little? Why was he so reluctant to begin the services? The Midrash shares with us that Aaron was reluctant because he was overcome at that moment with feelings of guilt. Why? Because Aaron still felt guilty in his indirect participation in the sin of the golden calf, of this idol worship, just a few weeks beforehand. And he now said to himself, well, maybe I don't deserve this honor. Maybe someone else should head this group of priests that are about to begin the ceremony of inauguration, of the inauguration of the tabernacle with sacrifices. I'm too small. I'm too unworthy. What does Moses do? Moses approaches Aaron and he says to him, it's not the time now for any types of negative feelings. Go to the altar, and in the words of Nike, just do it. Aaron listens to his brother. He approaches the altar. He does what he needs to do, offers these sacrifices, and then joy fills the tabernacle and fills Aaron's heart too. The lesson here, my friends, is profound and perhaps shares with us one of the great secrets of psychology and maybe of life. And that is that sometimes we too are overcome with feelings of guilt, with feelings of despair, with feelings of unworthiness. And we say to ourselves, well, let life continue. Let my deeds be performed by others. Moses comes and teaches us, no. Sometimes the best way to deal with negative feelings is not to deal with them at all. Sometimes the best way to deal with feelings of negativity is to engage in actions of positivity. If you just do it, those feelings will hopefully quickly dissipate. This, my friends, is a lesson that we ought to internalize, especially during this COVID-19 era. Because I know that many of us are now overcome with all sorts of feelings of negativity, feelings of uncertainty towards the world's future, and yes, maybe towards our own personal future. Will we keep our job? Will we have to find a different job? Will our family ever be the same? Will our lives ever be the same? And feelings of negativity start to seep in, play with our minds, and worse, stifle our growth and paralyze the actions that need to be done. And therefore we ought to heed to the words of Moses in this week's portion. Stop feeling. Just do it. Do that which you need to do. Don't let yourself hesitate towards doing yet another mitzvah, making that phone call, mending that broken relationship. Do what you need to do. Yes, make yourself a list of actions for today, for the coming week, and perhaps for the coming month. Go with great enthusiasm and perform each and every one of them. Check those boxes. And after you finish that list, create a new list. Because we in Judaism believe that we are what we do. As we say here very often, a congregation, but tefillah, indeed Judaism is not a feel-good religion. It is a do-good religion. And reminded of the powerful line of Arnold Palmer, alav shalom of blessed memory, the great golfer who was once asked, how come you're so good at golf? And Arnold Palmer responded, I'm actually not so good. I'm just lucky. Then he paused, thought for a while, and continued his response by saying, but you know what? It's funny. Because the harder I work, the luckier I get. Indeed, friends, the harder we work, the more we dedicate ourselves to deed after deed, mitzvah after mitzvah, action of goodness and kindness after action of goodness and kindness, the luckier we too will become. Kerav el hamizbeach va'aseh, in the words of Moses, approach your altar and do, transform your feelings into actions. Do not ask what will be. Ask, what can we do about it? I'm reminded of the story, and I'll conclude with it, of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, who was Rabbi Menachem Schneerson of blessed memory, who was once approached by a young woman with a whole medical file. And this woman came to tell the Rebbe, look, the doctors are saying that I suffer from narcissism. Read the file yourself, you'll understand. I have no hope, I have no future, I'm narcissistic. The Rebbe takes this file, looks at it. He was a speed reader, was able perhaps to read every single analysis there very quickly. And then he says to the woman, so what? Woman says, what do you mean? I'm narcissistic. They've defined me, I'm doomed. The Rebbe again says, and so what? I'm narcissistic. I can't continue living like this. The Rebbe said, you're narcissistic? That's just one side of you. If you want to deal with it, visit the sick, break your bubble of self, and go do a good deed for a stranger. Do mitzvahs, do charity. And she started indeed to do that and to incorporate those deeds in her life the day after time, consistently. Lo and behold, after a few weeks, she was a changed person. She returned to the Rebbe and she said to the Rebbe, thank you for seeing me, for my soul, for my infinite potential, for my divine being, not seeing me for my disease. That should not define us. What should define us is our soul, that soul that yearns most to do and do and do God's work in this world. Friends, as we wallow in all sorts of feelings, let us again commit ourselves to mitzvahs, to doing that which we alone can do. Mitzvah after mitzvah, let us ignite those fires of God in our lives and in the world. And let the world that is overcome by coronavirus expel this disease with the lights of our actions that will indeed bring redemption to us individually and to us collectively. May it happen speedily. Amen. Shabbat Shalom.